In the distant reaches of the galaxy, where stars shined like diamonds against the black void, the planet Zalaris stood out with its towering crystal cities and advanced technologies. It was a peaceful world, one that had mastered science and art. But peace was a fragile thing, and sometimes even the strongest civilizations faced dangers they could not control. Princess Azara had lived through such dangers, though she was too young to fully understand them at the time. She was only a child when the invasion happened, and the memories of that time had faded in her mind like a dream. But there was one thing she would never forget: the human soldier who had saved her life. It was on the day of the Great Assault, as the enemy ships descended from the sky like birds of prey, that Azara had been caught in the chaos. The royal palace had been torn apart in the attack. The sky was filled with smoke, and the air crackled with energy. Azara had barely escaped the palace when she was trapped in the wreckage of a downed ship, with no way out. Just when it seemed like there was no hope, a figure appeared out of the smoke. It was a human, a soldier in armor, wielding a strange weapon she had never seen before. He fought through the enemy forces with strength and skill, cutting a path through the destruction. His name was Captain Ethan Cross, a soldier who had been part of a peacekeeping mission sent by Earth. He found Azara trapped and afraid. Despite the odds, he pulled her from the wreckage and led her to safety. The rest of the battle was a blur to Azara, but she remembered the human soldier, his voice calm and reassuring in the chaos. He had saved her life that day, and she would always remember him as her hero. Years passed, and Azara grew into a fierce and intelligent young woman, the heir to the throne of Zalaris. The horrors of that day faded, but the image of Ethan Cross never left her mind. She often wondered what had become of him. Did he return to Earth, to the life he had known before he became a hero to an alien princess? Or had he moved on, leaving behind the memories of a distant planet? Azara's life was not easy. She was expected to prepare for the throne, to lead her people through the challenges of a galaxy on the edge of war. But there was always something missing. Her thoughts often drifted to the human soldier who had once protected her. She wanted to know what happened to him, and more than that, she needed his help. The galaxy was changing. The enemy forces that had attacked her world all those years ago had not disappeared. They were still out there, waiting for the right moment to strike. Zalaris was vulnerable, and Azara knew that she could not defend it alone. Her advisors suggested that she focus on strengthening her alliances with other alien races, but Azara had a different plan in mind. She needed Ethan Cross. The human who had once saved her life would be the key to saving her people. She ordered a deep space probe to search for any trace of the human soldier. After months of searching, the probe found a signal, one that led them to Earth, the planet of her hero. It was faint, but it was enough. Azara's heart raced with excitement. She had to find him, back on Earth. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Ethan Cross was living a quiet life. He had retired from active duty, his days of fighting in wars and saving alien princesses long behind him. He had returned to his home on Earth after the mission to Zalaris, his mind filled with memories of the battle and the girl he had rescued. Over time, those memories faded, as all things do. Ethan found peace in his simple life, working as a military strategist, far removed from the chaos of space wars. But the peace he had found was about to be shattered. One evening, as Ethan sat alone in his small office, he received a strange message. The message was encrypted, but it was clearly not from any organization he knew. He decrypted it, and the words that appeared on the screen made his heart stop. "We need you. Zalaris is in danger. Your help is needed. Princess Azara." Ethan stared at the message in disbelief. It had been years since he last thought about the princess. He never expected to hear from her again, let alone receive a request for help. He read the message again, trying to make sense of it. Zalaris was in danger? What had happened? The memories of that day, the smoke, the destruction, Azara's frightened eyes, rushed back to him. He had always wondered what had become of her, and now here she was, calling for him. He didn't know what to do. He had left that life behind. But something inside him stirred. A sense of duty, a sense of connection. Azara had trusted him once, and he had sworn to protect her. The thought of leaving her now, when she was in need, felt impossible. Ethan knew what he had to do. He couldn't ignore the call. The adventure, the danger, the unknown, all of it pulled at him. He had once fought for peace, but now he would fight for Azara. The hum of the spacecraft was familiar to Ethan as he stood at the controls of the sleek vessel. His fingers hovered over the command console, his thoughts far from the technical aspects of the ship. Zalaris. The name echoed in his mind like a distant memory, one that he had long tried to forget. But now, here he was, on his way back to that strange foreign world where a young princess had once relied on him. It had been years since Ethan had set foot in space. After the mission to Zalaris, he had retired from active duty. Life on Earth had been quiet, simple even, compared to the chaos of war and adventure. He had traded his uniform for a civilian life, far from the alien worlds that had once been his battlefield. But when the message arrived, when Azara's words had appeared, on his screen everything changed. She needed him again. Zalaris needed him. The princess, now a grown woman, was in danger, and the galaxy was on the brink of war. Ethan could not ignore the call. His heart had told him as much as his mind. He had to go. As the ship sped through the stars, Ethan couldn't help but wonder what he would find when he arrived. Would Azara still remember him, the human soldier who had once saved her life? Would she see him as the same man, or had the years and distance between them changed everything? Chapter 2. A Princess's Request. When Ethan's ship entered Zalaris's atmosphere, he was met with a view that took his breath away. The planet was a masterpiece of crystalline architecture, its cities shimmering in the sunlight. There were no words that could fully capture the beauty of it. Zalaris had always been a world of peace and prosperity, but now, with war on the horizon, it was a world that was about to change forever. Ethan's ship touched down on the royal landing platform, and he disembarked, taking in the scene. A team of soldiers, along with high-ranking officials, awaited his arrival. At the center of them stood Princess Azara, her regal presence undeniable, even from a distance. She had grown since the last time he saw her. Gone was the young girl he had once saved. Now before him stood a confident, powerful leader. Her dark hair flowed around her face, and her sharp eyes locked onto his with an intensity that took him by surprise. There was no trace of the frightened child he remembered. "Captain Cross," Azara said, her voice steady and commanding. "I knew you would come." Ethan stood there, unsure of what to say. He had expected a formal greeting, but the warmth in her eyes disarmed him. He had always known her as someone special, but seeing her now as a leader made him realize how much she had changed. "You sent for me," Ethan said, trying to sound professional, though his heart was racing. "What's happened to Zalaris?" Azara's expression darkened. "We are on the brink of war. Our enemies have grown stronger, and our allies are uncertain. I need your help, Ethan. I need you to help me lead our forces." The words hung in the air. Ethan had never considered himself a leader, especially not one who could lead an entire world into battle. But there was something in Azara's gaze that made him feel like he was the only person who could help her. "I'm no king," Ethan replied, his voice steady despite his doubts. "I'm just a soldier." Azara stepped closer, her presence overwhelming. You are more than that. You saved me once. Now I'm asking you to stand by my side. Together we can save Zalaris." Her words struck Ethan deep. He remembered that day, the day he pulled her from the wreckage, the day he promised to protect her. But to be by her side as a leader, as a partner, the thought seemed impossible. Yet, deep down, he knew he couldn't refuse her. "I'll help you," he said, his voice firm. "But we do this together. I'll follow your lead." Azara smiled, a rare and genuine smile that lit up her face. "I knew I could count on you." Chapter 3. Preparing for Battle. In the days that followed, Ethan and Azara worked tirelessly to prepare Zalaris for war. Ethan quickly realized that his years of experience in combat were invaluable to Azara's people. Despite the technological advantages Zalaris had, they lacked the practical experience in warfare that Ethan brought with him. They spent hours in war strategy meetings, discussing tactics and potential threats. Azara's council was filled with highly intelligent and capable individuals, but none of them had the first-hand knowledge of how war could change in an instant. Ethan's input helped to shift their plans, and soon they had a strategy that made them feel more confident. Yet, despite their preparations, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The enemy's forces were formidable, and their motivations were unclear. Azara had told him that they were a rogue faction of the alien race that had attacked her planet years ago. But there was something deeper at play. The enemy seemed to know too much about Zalaris's defenses. It was as if they were always one step ahead. Ethan voiced his concerns to Azara one evening as they stood together on a balcony overlooking the city. "Something's not right," Ethan said, his brow furrowed in thought. "They're prepared for us in ways we didn't expect. It's almost like they've been watching us." Azara turned to him, her eyes narrowed in concentration. "I've considered that. But who would be watching us? Who would have that kind of power?" Ethan shook his head. "I don't know. But I'll figure it out. I've faced enemies before who were just as sneaky." "We need to stay one step ahead of them." Azara placed a hand on his arm. "We will. Together." Chapter 4. The First Strike. The first attack came suddenly, with no warning. Ethan had been in the command center going over the final details of their plans when the alarms blared throughout the city. The enemy had launched a full-scale assault. Ethan didn't hesitate. He grabbed his weapons, rallied the soldiers, and took charge, just as he had done so many times before. Azara was by his side, her own weapon ready, her eyes fierce with determination. They led the charge together, an unexpected but powerful duo. The battle raged for hours, the sky above Zalaris turning into a chaotic swirl of energy blasts and explosions. The enemy's forces were relentless, and despite their advanced technology, Zalaris was caught off guard. Ethan's heart pounded as he fought alongside Azara's soldiers. He could see the desperation in their eyes, but he could also see their determination. They wouldn't give up without a fight. Azara fought beside him, her movements graceful, yet deadly. She was a warrior, not just a ruler, and she held her ground with strength and resolve. It was clear that her leadership had inspired her people, and they were willing to follow her to the ends of the galaxy. Together, they held the line, but the battle was far from over. The enemy's forces kept coming, and their attacks seemed more coordinated than ever. Chapter 5. The Unexpected Alliance. As the battle continued, Ethan and Azara found themselves face to face with a new, unexpected threat. A ship appeared out of nowhere, an enormous warship that eclipsed the Zalaris sky. Its markings were unfamiliar, but its firepower was undeniable. It wasn't a typical enemy ship. The design was sleek and elegant, but there was something about it that felt wrong. Like it wasn't just another alien force. This was something much more dangerous. "I've never seen a ship like that before," Azara muttered, her voice tense with uncertainty. "We need to find out who they are," Ethan said, already formulating a plan. He was no stranger to uncertainty, but this new development felt like a game changer. The battle was momentarily paused as both sides regrouped, eyeing each other warily. But the appearance of the mysterious ship raised questions no one had the answers to. The days following the surprise attack by the unknown warship were tense on Zalaris. While the city's defensive shields had held firm, the presence of the mysterious ship left everyone uneasy. The people of Zalaris had faced many battles, but this new threat felt different, more calculated, more dangerous. Ethan and Azara stood together on the balcony of the royal palace, their eyes scanning the horizon. The damage from the initial wave of attacks was evident. Smoke still rose from the ruins of the outskirts of the city, and the air was thick with the scent of burning debris. But the city itself was holding strong. "I've never seen a ship like that," Ethan said, his voice filled with concern. He had fought in countless battles, but this felt like something he hadn't prepared for. "Who are they, Azara?" Azara's expression was grim, her eyes searching the skies as if the answers could be found in the stars. "I don't know. They're not part of any race we've encountered before. It's as if they came out of nowhere." Ethan looked at her, noting the strength in her eyes. She had always been a princess, but now she was a leader, ready to face whatever threat came her way. He admired her more than he could put into words. She had grown so much since he had first met her, from a frightened child to the ruler of an entire world. "We'll figure it out," he said, his voice steady. "We've beaten enemies before, and we'll do it again." Azara nodded. "Yes, we will. But we can't waste time. If they're here to conquer us, we need to be ready." Chapter 2. Unseen Forces as. The days turned into weeks. The people of Zalaris prepared for the worst. Ethan and Azara worked side by side, formulating strategies, rallying the troops, and gathering intelligence. Every day brought new information, but nothing concrete about the enemy's intentions. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. It wasn't just the mysterious warship looming above. There was something more, a sense that there were hidden forces at play, manipulating events from the shadows. One evening, while they were reviewing battle plans in the war room, Ethan leaned closer to Azara. "There's something off about all of this. We're being led into something we don't fully understand." Azara met his gaze. "I've felt it too, but we can't afford to dwell on what we don't know. We have to fight with what we have." Ethan nodded, but doubt still lingered in the back of his mind. The attack had been too coordinated, too precise. It wasn't just about defeating Zalaris. It was about something much deeper. He had been around enough military operations to recognize the signs of a well-planned strike, and this one was too methodical to be a simple raid. "Maybe we need to find out more about these attackers," Ethan suggested. "Get some answers before we go blindly into another battle." Azara's eyes narrowed. "I agree. I'll send out a team of spies to gather intel. They'll go to the border and see if they can learn anything about the enemy's movements." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Be careful. We don't know who we're dealing with." "I will," Azara said, her voice calm but filled with resolve. "We will." Chapter 3. A Growing Bond in. The days that followed, Ethan found himself spending more and more time with Azara. They trained together, planned together, and even shared meals. The bond between them grew stronger as they faced the growing threat, and it was clear that their connection was more than just one of duty. Ethan had always admired Azara for her strength, but now he saw her in a different light. She wasn't just a princess or a leader. She was someone he deeply respected, someone he felt an unspoken connection with. One evening, after a long day of strategizing, Azara invited Ethan to her private quarters. "I want to thank you," she said as they sat across from each other, the room lit by soft, glowing lights. "For everything you've done. Without you, I don't know where we would be." Ethan shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to respond. "I'm just doing my job. I'm here to help, Azara." She smiled, but there was a sadness in her eyes. "You've done more than that. You've given me hope when I thought all was lost." Her words struck Ethan deeply. He had never thought of himself as a symbol of hope, but in that moment, he realized that, to Azara and to the people of Zalaris, he had become something more, a beacon in the darkness. Azara's eyes softened. "You've shown me what true leadership is. I've learned so much from you." Ethan met her gaze, his heart racing. "And I've learned a lot from you too, Azara." For a long moment, they simply sat there, the silence between them comfortable but charged. Ethan could feel the weight of the unspoken words in the air, and he knew that something had shifted between them. He wasn't sure what it meant, but he couldn't deny the connection he felt. Chapter 4. The First Test. The enemy made its move, once again. A large fleet of ships appeared on the outskirts of Zalaris, their dark silhouettes casting long shadows over the planet. This time, they weren't just threatening, they were preparing for an all-out assault. Ethan and Azara stood together in the war room, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. The fleet was moving closer and the attack was imminent. "They're coming," Azara said, her voice steady, but there was a tremor in her eyes. "This is it. The war we've been preparing for." Ethan nodded. "We'll fight them off, together." They quickly began coordinating their forces, preparing for the inevitable battle. Ethan's military experience proved invaluable once again as he helped Azara refine their strategies. The soldiers of Zalaris were brave, but they lacked the experience of Earth's forces. Ethan knew that their best chance of survival lay in outsmarting their enemies, using tactics they hadn't anticipated. As the battle began, Ethan found himself at the forefront of the conflict, leading his troops with precision and skill. Azara was by his side, her presence a source of strength for the soldiers fighting to protect their world. The sky above Zalaris became a battlefield of energy blasts and missiles, the very air trembling with the force of the conflict. Ships exploded, soldiers clashed, and chaos reigned. Through it all, Ethan and Azara fought side by side. There was no time for hesitation, no time for doubt. They were in this together, and nothing would stop them from protecting their world. Chapter 5. The Unexpected Decision. After hours of intense fighting, the enemy finally began to retreat. Zalaris had held its ground, but at a great cost. The city lay in ruins, and the once pristine landscape was scarred by battle. Ethan and Azara stood amidst the destruction, their clothes torn, their bodies battered. Yet, despite the toll the battle had taken on them, there was a sense of victory in the air. "We did it," Azara said, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan nodded, but his eyes were filled with concern. "We've won this battle, but the war isn't over. We need to prepare for what's coming next." Azara's gaze softened as she looked at him. "I know, but I couldn't have done it without you. You've been my rock through all of this." Ethan met her eyes, and for the first time he saw the deep admiration and respect in her gaze. There was no mistaking it now. The connection between them was undeniable. Azara took a deep breath, her expression hardening as she turned her attention to the horizon. "This is just the beginning. We will fight to protect Zalaris no matter what." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder, his grip firm but comforting. "And I'll be by your side, always." Chapter 6. The Decision to Lead. The days after the battle were filled with both recovery and reflection. Zalaris had won, but the price had been steep. The loss of life was felt deeply, and the people were still coming to terms with the cost of the war. Azara spent her days overseeing the reconstruction of the city, meeting with the survivors, and planning for the future. But there was something more pressing on her mind. the future of Zalaris itself. One evening, as the sun set over the damaged city, Azara called Ethan to her quarters. He entered to find her standing by the window, gazing out at the stars. "I've been thinking," Azara said, her voice low, "about everything that's happened and what comes next." Ethan stepped closer. "What are you thinking?" Azara turned to face him, her eyes filled with determination. "I need you to stay here, with me. I need you by my side, not just as a soldier, but as something more." Ethan was taken aback. "More? What do you mean?" Azara's expression softened, and for the first time there was a hint of vulnerability in her eyes. "I mean as my equal. You've saved me twice now. You've fought by my side, and you've shown me what true leadership is. I can't do this alone. I need you, Ethan, as my king."